Hey guys, it's me, Seren, back with another video. So this is going to be a review of episode 2 of Watchmen on HBO. Even though we're only 2 episodes in, I am going to be doing this review in the good, the bad, and the ugly format. I don't really have any ugly just yet, so it's going to be the good and the bad. So let me start off with the good. I'm really enjoying this show. Again, I know we're only 2 episodes in, and the 3rd episode comes on tomorrow. But I'm really liking what they're doing so far. I'm really intrigued by the premise of the show. I'm really curious about a lot of these plot lines and stories that they're setting up and seeing how these play out over the next 7 episodes. Starting out with episode 2, they showed a flashback to the father of the young boy who went on to become the old man in the wheelchair that escaped the Tulsa massacre. His father was serving in the U.S. Army in World War II, and they basically showed how Black American soldiers were second-class citizens. Like, we were considered second-class citizens at home, and even serving our country, we were also considered second-class citizens in the armed forces. He has a commander, or white commander, that, like, spits right in his face, which they show, which I always hate whenever they show people, like, spitting. I have, like, a phobia of, like, spit. It grosses me out. It sends chills down my spine. I can't watch, like, people spitting shit in movies. Like, it freaks me out. So when I saw that, I was like, oh no, disrespect. He would have had to die. Like, so I really like that they showed how Black American soldiers were in this weird place of being second-class citizens that were still expected to, like, serve our country, and how we're just in this weird place of, like, serving a country that hates us and working in this really, strong anti-imperialism message. I liked that a lot. However, and I'm going to get to this a little bit more when I get into the bad, then they revealed that the note that was given to the child survivor of the Tulsa massacre, because he gave him a note before he, like, put him on the wagon and, like, sent him out, and the note said basically the father was urging his son to join the Germans, on some America is not the place for us, like, fuck America, like, you should go to Germany, like, go abroad and sort of, like, join in with the Nazis. And I kind of feel like that is probably not the wave, and I hope that that doesn't become a major plot point, some type of idea of, like, Black Americans being used as a collective that, like, favors Nazi Germany. It would really, in my opinion, undermine some of the important racial themes that are being discussed in terms of American anti-Blackness. So I'm really hoping that it doesn't go that route. But again, we're still very early in the season, so I'm just, like, throwing that out there, that when I saw that that was what the note said, I like that they included the sort of anti-imperialism message and the message of Black Americans being expected to serve a country that was racist and hated us, but I didn't like the kind of twist of, like, so join Nazi Germany. I was like, I don't know. We'll have to see how this plays out. The 2nd episode of Watchmen also fleshed out some of the backstory prior to the things that we're seeing now and in the sort of present day of the show. They showed the attack on the police that led to them wearing masks. This was the incident where Sister Night was shot, which they showed. She was, like, dancing around with her husband, and then she was like, there's somebody in the house, and then, like, they were just in the house and they attacked her. It looked to be a stomach or chest wound. It was really gruesome. But they didn't exactly show how she survived, which I'm curious about, and I hope they maybe get into in later episodes. Or you guys can tell me if I missed something. But to me, it looked like the attacker, like, had her at, like, point blank range. But they kind of just, like, skipped over a part and, like, jumped to her waking up in the hospital. And they kind of just revealed that it was, like, a coordinated attack on 48 houses where they simultaneously killed the cops on Christmas Eve, and the only survivors were Regina King's Sister Night and her police chief. Everyone else got killed. So they showed her waking up to the police chief by her bedside, revealing that they were the only ones from, like, the whole squad, like, the whole police unit that survived, which kind of just showed... It gave more context into the bond between herself and the police chief. Later on in the episode, they showed that she's extremely distraught over his death. They showed her, like screaming and crying on this, like, chain link wall, which I thought was some brilliant, wonderful acting from Regina King. She, like, lost it for, like, a few minutes, and then they showed her, like, get her composure. There's, like, no dialogue, but Regina King knows how to, like, emote. We've talked previously about, like, what did I think makes an actor good, and I've always said, like, not just being able to like deliver lines convincingly, which I do think, you know, is important if you're like delivering lines that are like wooden or unbelievable, but how do you move? What's your body language like? How do you emote? Can you really make me feel and believe that you're going through it? And Regina King is really making me feel and believe that she's going through it over this death. They also revealed that her partner was killed, and that's why she has these white kids, that they're the kids of her former partner, which kind of plays into the whole, you know, like cops as family trope, which we see a lot on film, which even though I'm using the word trope, like it's not necessarily like a bad thing. I'm not really saying that it bothered me or anything like that. But it was just like, oh, okay, like partner died, she took the kids, of course. That type of thing is like common, so fine. There was also an extremely cool scene. This was probably my favorite scene out of the whole episode, where they show the sort of reparations process, where they do DNA testing at a kiosk and then they receive the results. And Regina King actually finds out that she's the granddaughter of the old black dude in the wheelchair who survived the Tulsa massacre. And the whole scene was just done very, very just cool and interesting. Like Henry Louis Gates Jr. was there. He was like a guide, sort of like a digital guide, and I just felt like it was technically like a super cool scene. They have these like futuristic, again, like digital kiosks where you give your DNA and it tells you kind of your lineage, and you can look into your genealogy and you can trace, you know, your roots, and you have to sort of meet these certain requirements, lineage requirements, as well as like DNA, biological requirements for you to get your Redfordations, aka your reparations. And they have this place called the Greenwood Cultural Center where you do this whole process, and Henry Louis Gates Jr., a digital copy of him, kind of like walks you through it. And it reminded me of the library scene from The Time Machine. If you guys haven't seen The Time Machine, I highly recommend it. I don't know if you've ever watched it for Beast Bake, but I would like to watch it for the live stream because Samantha Mumba is the main character in it, and she's black. So it's The Time Machine is based on the book, and it's just an awesome movie, speculative fiction, and Orlando Jones is in it as a digital, like an AI librarian that can look up anything instantly. And Henry Louis Gates Jr.'s appearance at the Greenwood Cultural Center, explaining how reparations are given out and walking people through the process, reminded me of that. And it was just really exciting to see. It makes something like that seem possible. And I'm getting the feeling that the show, I don't know if this is true, this is just how it seems to me, that the show is almost making a case for real life reparations by using fiction. You know, it's sort of like, why can't we have cultural centers throughout the United States where you can trace your lineage, you know, as a Black American, as a descendant of American chattel slavery, a DACS, like, why not? Like, why not do it? Like, with these, like, digitized guides or with real guides, you know, historians, like, why can't this be a thing? Like, we have all types of cultural centers. We have all types of African American history museums. You know, we have all types of things. Like, it would be very interesting to see resources sunk into this type of project, because people love to act like reparations and this type of like lineage tracing is impossible. But like, is it really impossible? I don't think that it is. So I thought that this was a really interesting and just very clever scene to include. It was really, again, it was like technically really cool. The shots, the way that it looked, her going into the center, her standing at the kiosk, and this like familiar face of Henry Louis Gates Jr. appears, and he's like walking her through the process, and she puts in her DNA, and she ends up getting the phone call later where they reveal that she's the granddaughter of the old man. And I just really enjoyed the scene. I thought it was like a fucking dope ass scene. A white man shows up on Regina King's porch at one point. It's Bobby from Supernatural. Never thought I'd see him again, even though we're in the final season of Supernatural. I can't believe it. They don't really explain who he is, but I'm thinking he's the biological grandfather of her partner's kids, maybe. It appears she pays him off to leave without seeing the kids. It also appears he's like redneck trash that's mad about her Redfordations, and yet he accepts the money from her. That's definitely going to be an interesting plot line that is being set up that I'm kind of interested in seeing how it's going to play out later on. They did a lot of, if the pilot episode was meant to sort of just like have you like, whoa, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? This second episode, I think they definitely did a really good job of like setting up a bunch of different plot lines that I'm very curious to see how it's going to play out, right? With revealing certain things about the attack on the police, revealing certain things about Regina King's lineage, revealing certain things about these white kids and their possible family members, revealing certain things about the police chief because she found a motherfucking KKK costume in the closet. Where that's gonna go, I don't know. Like, it was very interesting seeing the attack on the police and connecting that with the fact that all these people are living in the aftermath of the attack on the police. And not just that, how they're living in the aftermath of the Tulsa massacre, how they're even living in the aftermath of the events in the original Watchmen with the superhero element, with the masks, with the raining squid, which is a nod to the original Watchmen where there was this staged squid attack or whatever. You know, the superhero stuff was definitely introduced in the pilot episode, and we see even more of that now. They show all these gadgets and stuff in Sister Night's place, which was really dope to see. Like, I was very intrigued by this episode and extremely curious to see how a lot of these plot lines that they are setting up plays out. They also pretty much confirm that Jeremy Irons' character is Ozymandias, who's one of the main villains from the original Watchmen, and that these servants of his are robots, because there's a ton of them fucking acting out his play. They confirm that it's not just them two, it's a bunch of them acting it out. They get lit on fire. The play is called The Watchmaker's Son, which the clocks and the use of the watchmaker, that itself harkens back to the original Watchmen. So I'm actually going to read you guys a little bit about the symbolism of clocks and watches and Watchmen, just for people that aren't sure or didn't know anything about it. Clocks and watches are used throughout Watchmen to provide symbolism on many layers. Clocks can often be seen in the background of panels, but they are also sometimes mentioned in the text. The title of the series itself is a reference, although the word watchman usually refers to a guard, i.e. one who watches, and is used in this context in the series in the phrase, who watches the watchman. It can also mean one who makes watches, like the watchmaker's son, or even one who is a watch. And anytime I start thinking about watches and watchmakers and watchmaker sons and clocks and superheroes, my mind also immediately goes to heroes and goes to Sylar, who was one of the greatest villains ever and was a watchmaker and was the son of a watchmaker, and part of his superpower, his ability involved, taking things apart, taking people's brains apart, similar to how he would take apart a clock so that he could get their powers, even though that progressed. But we're not talking about heroes, so let's move on with Watchmen. So yeah, I'm very curious to see where these plot lines go, especially also Jeremy Irons with Ozymandias, as what he's doing is currently unrelated to the main story of Regina King's Sister Night. So overall, this is giving me a very Lost meets Heroes, even season 1 vibe, where things are super just abstract and you're trying to get a handle on what's going on, but the world building and the slow character development is top notch. I feel like the racial themes are still really, really good. Again, my favorite scene out of this whole entire episode was the Greenwood Cultural Center scene. I loved seeing something like that on the screen. I felt like it's important to see those type of images. So moving on to the bad. I really hope they're not setting up some type of romance story arc between her and the police chief. I'm beginning to become concerned. Even though we're only 2 episodes in, they're showing that they're very close. They're showing how distraught she was, which I did appreciate that they showed that, because a lot of times in movies and TV shows, people die and the people close to them kind of are sad for a second and they just move on like it never happened, which is not realistic. But I really don't want it to go down a romance road where she's cheating on her husband with this white man. I feel like that would be really cheap. I feel like that would be really lazy writing. Y'all know how I feel about love triangles and unnecessary romance and romantic plot lines between men and women characters. It was a complaint I had about Stranger Things. It was a complaint I had about, it's been a complaint I've had about damn near everything, because I feel like a lot of writers have trouble writing women characters that have important male figures in their lives, be it a mentor, be it a friend, be it whatever, without introducing some type of romantic element. I feel like it would be more meaningful to keep it that they just had a close platonic bond where he was a mentor, or maybe a father figure. I really don't want a romance to be revealed. I'd be disappointed. Like I already mentioned, they also revealed that she went to his house and found a KKK uniform in the closet. when the old black man that was revealed was her grandfather. She thinks he killed the chief. She's not sure if he killed the chief. It's possible that he killed him. He was there. The chief was strung up. He was hung, he was like basically lynched. He was hung from a tree with the rope around his neck. So then he told her, go, oh, even your chief had like skeletons in his closet or whatever. So she literally goes and checks the closet and finds like a KKK uniform in there. So I don't know. I just have like a little bit of a concern that like they're going to reveal some type of romance and she's going to be like heartbroken to figure out he was like a racist or something. I don't know. Maybe it's not going to go that way, but I'm always really wary about that kind of thing. And as I also previously said, I'm concerned about them making this like old black man in the wheelchair, that her grandfather that survived the Tulsa massacre, into some kind of anti-hero, into somebody that like killed her chief, into some type of like quote unquote reverse racist, or somebody that's on the side of the Nazis. Again, they're implying that he killed her boss or had something to do with it. They showed this note that the father like gave him as a child after he experienced like racism in the United States Army, that had this like anti-imperialism message, which I'm totally behind the anti-imperialism message and the revealing of how Black Americans were treated so shitty and still are in U.S. military. But like, I just don't need to see this black man, this old black man that survived extreme racial trauma, becoming some type of antagonist, where the white police chief that got killed is some type of martyr. Again, they found the KKK outfit in the closet, so I'm hoping it doesn't go down that route, but we shall see. Again, it's given me a kind of Lost season 1 vibe, and I hope it doesn't go the route of Lost where it builds up all this mystery and then falls flat, especially considering it is a limited run of only 9 episodes, so they have to be very careful, with the pacing of the show, and with the way that they deal with some of these plot lines. So I hope they don't fall on any like lazy writing or tropes or anything like that, because I'm still super into this show, right? And we're about to be 1/3 of the way through it when the 3rd episode airs. So I really, really, really enjoyed it. There's no ugly, and even the bad is just like not necessarily like what's there, but just like my concerns about what could possibly come. But I love this episode, and like I said, the Greenwood Cultural Center and the discussion of reparations in this really realistic way, I think is extremely, extremely important, and I'm really enjoying this dialogue that the show is having. So, Watchmen, Season 1, Episode 2, have you guys seen it? What did you think? Review, can't wait to see Episode 3. Let me know in the comments. Food for thought as always. See you guys next time. Peace.